Sunday in the West Village. Today, I want to talk about seasonal fucking depression because, god damn, this winter it's so long. Do you ever just like eavesdrop on people's conversations and then they feel so, it kind of feels like you're the oracle? Anyways, today I want to read a passage from Nietzsche's The Birth of Tragedy, because I feel that we live in a type of modernity where everything has become a performance of value. And truthfully speaking, that seems to be what Nietzsche's whole thing is about, that truth, his Übermensch, truth has become a performance. And the Übermensch, the Overman, are people who don't perform. Very Jungian, I think. But I think it's interesting. I'm gonna read just the first chapter, and then I'm going to dissect it a little bit with what I've been thinking about in today's world. Whatever it was that gave rise to this problematic work, of one thing that can be no question, the issue it propounded must have been supremely important and attractive as well as very personal to the author. The times in spite of which it was composed, bear out that fact. The date is 1870-71, the turbulent period of the Franco-Prussian War. Today is March 1st, 2026. The United States is in turbulence. Anyways. By now, the reader will have come to suspect where I put my mark of interrogation. The question was one of value, the value placed on existence. Is pessimism inevitably a sign of decadence, warped, weakened instincts, as it was once with the ancient Hindus, as it is now with us modern Europeans? Or is there such a thing as a strong pessimism, a penchant of the mind for what is hard, terrible, evil, dubious in existence, arising from a plethora of health, plenitude of being? Could it be perhaps that the very feeling of superabundance created its own kind of suffering, a temerity of penetration, hankering for enemy, the worthwhile enemy, so as to prove its strength, to experience at last what it means to fear something? What meaning did the tragic myth have for the Greeks during the period of their greatest power and courage? And what of the dynastic spirit, so tremendous in its implications? What of the tragedy that grew out of that spirit? Or one might look at the other way around, those agencies that proved fatal to tragedy, Socratic ethics, dialectics, the temperaments and cheerfulness of the pure scholar, couldn't these, rather than their opposites, be viewed as symptoms of decline, fatigue, distemper, of instincts caught in anarch disillusion, or the Greek serenity of the later period as simply the glow of the sun about to set, or the Epicurean animus against pessimism merely as a sort of precaution a suffering man might use, and as disinterested inquiry, so-called? What, in the last analysis, did inquiry come to when judged as a symptom of life process? What were we to say of the end, or worse, of the beginning of all inquiry? Might it be that the inquiry mind was simply the human mind terrified by pessimism and trying to escape from it? A clever bulwark erected against truth, something craven and false, if one wanted to be moral about it, or if one preferred to put it amorally a dodge. Had this perhaps been your secret, great Socrates, most secretive of ironists, and this has been your deepest irony? So, this is just part one of an introduction. And already, it's very Nietzsche, kind of rambling. I think this passage is interesting and just Nietzsche's preachings so far, because he reminds me of someone who said everything that low-key everyone is thinking but didn't want to say out loud if you really think about it. Like, for example, I'm thinking about the Epstein files and what it reveals a lot about our society right now. My analysis of this comes from my bachelor's from Princeton in sociology, and a lot of how I see the world is social performance. And Nietzsche, it's the performance of values. And so when you see a scandal like the Epstein files come out, where the rich of the rich, the most powerful, those ubermensch, get away with absolutely anything and everything possible, you start to question what, not just what the meaning of life is, but what kind of system do I actually want to live in? Listen to, abide to, because at the end of the day, everything is a social system, construct. Not in a hippy-dippy type of way, but in a way where you realize that the value of humanity is our own agency and voice. And in the modern society, so much of that is lost. You know, this whole thing with AI, this whole thing with technology consuming our lives. You know, you see so many people go offline and then get online, go offline, get online. You know, this talk of trying to build together with technology, but really we're being consumed by technology. And then it just becomes another overperformance of, no, I have agency, but no, you know. Anyways, I can ramble on this for a while, but I've been thinking about just a new way to tackle at the frustrations of modernity and its, you know, issues. Not just from a yap type of way, because I think that is the issue with a lot of like academia. There's such important information that is in, you know, all these books, all these scholars, all these texts, but we have an issue. I say we because, you know, when you read these academic texts, there's so much jargon. It's dense. Hegel, oh gosh. I tried to read the phenomenology of spirit, Geist, I love it, and it was dense. You know, but the thing is, it's like, it's dense for a reason, because a lot of the logic itself is circular, and it's kind of like tree branches, how I see it. You know, it has a starting point, and then it will keep going into, it kind of explodes exponentially, even to the point where it becomes a whole cosmos of ideas, and then those ideas, you know, entangle. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I've been thinking a lot about the world and what I want to do in this lifetime. I'm 24 now. This channel is called Mobius because I'm living life on the Mobius strip. Because the Mobius strip is just an infinity space, infinity area. No, not area. It's like, it's a one-dimensional loop that is infinite, you know? And I think that's how life feels like these days, at least. You know, why so many people my generation are depressed, lonely, and so they filter that out via social media, now being an influencer, the me economy. But at the same time, you know, we're like in the late stages of capitalism, so this me economy is also not satisfying, you know. And now, going back to like what kind of prompted this whole thing, the Epstein files reveals about greed, in our modern society. It's not just corporate greed, but just gluttony, excess of optimization. Everything, especially in the AI age, is optimizing for utility. But life, Geist, quoting Hegel, is not something to be measured. There's certain things about the social fabric of our existence that should not be.
So where do you source these investments? Like where do you buy them?
A capital, an investment, as my guy in the AirPods is saying. It's, we can joke all the time about tech bros, finance bros, your mama's bro, but I don't know. I just think it's not funny anymore when people are depressed and everyone's lonely and the small businesses can't get no businesses. Anyways, I sit here today to introduce this because I think it's delightful. I think it's cool to think about these things. And in New York today, it's also sunny, so that helps a lot. I also noticed that weather drastically changes moods, my mood in particular. And yeah, that's it. That's all for today. Boom.